long as it's coming through the right stuff. Yeah.
Say again?
You can't hear feedback, right? Because I got my big speakers on, but I make sure that I have enough like noise cancellation, so you should be able to hear
we're
it.
straight.
All right.
All right, cool, man. Well, we are recording. Matt, thank you so much for joining me on my show. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah. Look, I'm a big fan of your work. I just discovered you recently. I was researching some affiliate marketing stuff. It's something that I've never experienced, or something that I don't really have a whole lot of experience in. And so I'll tell you why. I always thought affiliate was kind of a waste of time, because all the things I've ever seen with affiliate is like the same people writing the same content about like growing an online business and selling like the same 5 or 6 different marketing products, and just thinking like, where's the money? What's the point? Like, where does it even happen? But you and your, I guess we can call it your personal brand, Money Lab, and some of the other like side project affiliate sites is totally different. Like, you've really gone in and you've picked a particular niche that has almost like communities around them, and then developed content and developed products around that. And I know, looking at it now, it seems so obvious, but like I never even thought about doing it from that angle. So like, tell me that story. How did that come into play, and how's that all work?
Yeah, I feel like affiliate marketing is kind of a dirty business where it has a bad rap. Like it's people kind of look at it as, an easy way to make money, passive income kind of thing, make money online, get rich quick sort of thing. It's funny. I didn't enter the world. I didn't enter through that sort of tunnel, because I kind of, part of my brand and part of me as a person, like I just can see bullshit a mile away. Right. And I don't know if I'm allowed to curse or not. But,
yeah, go ahead. No problem.
But yeah, so like I can see it a mile away. And so I was very selective in my early stages when I was because the original idea that my flagship site is called Swim University. It's a pool site, pool hot tub care. That it wasn't like I picked it. It wasn't like, oh, I want to get into affiliate marketing. What's a good niche? What's a good niche? Whatever. I got into it because like when I was a kid, that was the summer job I had. I was a 13-year-old kid working at a pool store. And I just kind of stuck with it. I kept moving to different pool companies and didn't go to college because like I was working full time and I was making decent money, and like, became assistant manager, then manager. And then like, just kind of like worked my way up the ladder in the local like South Jersey pool industry. And obviously at that point too, I was into website design because I had a band, an original band that we were trying to make. I was trying to make it as a rock star at one point.
You too?
And
I say you too.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Tried for 5 years and like really thought we were going to get somewhere. And then, it was just kind of obvious that like, no, it wasn't going to happen. But during that time, this is like pre MySpace. So like, we needed a website and we couldn't afford one. Like, I couldn't afford to hire a web designer. And I had a computer that my dad had bought me for college, that I only went to for 2 weeks twice, which is what my anecdote is, because went one semester for a week, didn't like it, dropped out. And then I was like, I'll go the next semester for another week, didn't like it again, dropped out. So I ended up just learning how to design websites with my computer because we needed one for the band. I did learn. I was at work one day and, my boss caught me looking at my own website and ended up like hiring me to do the website for the company. And then that became a whole thing where I started, I had this new skill set, besides the pool stuff. I was like, oh, I can build websites. And I went and got a job as a website designer at a big firm. And then like 6 months later, after working at that job, my boss from the pool company hired me back as a marketing director and kind of running all of the like newspaper ads, television ads, radio ads, website ads, all like the website itself, all things marketing for a company that had like multiple stores. And so that was great because like I was 23 or something like that and had a legit corporate, gig. And I was, and I, knew website design and I knew pools. And so at that point I was like, okay, I have an idea for a site to kind of mix these two things together. And that was the idea. then I figured out how to monetize it, which was like AdSense and this thing called affiliate marketing, where you can just recommend products to people. And I was like, that's a perfect idea. I can write an article about, how to get rid of a cloudy pool. And then I can recommend the products that I normally would recommend to customers that I did actually help throughout my entire life. So it just made sense to me. And that's how I approached it. And it took, 10 years of kind of like trial and error to really get to where I am today, of starting a website, trying to write content, not being a good writer at all, because that's part of that is the exact reason I dropped out of college twice, is because of an English teachers that just wasn't good at it, and became good at it later because my business depended on me being good at it. But yeah, that's kind of the whole journey in a really small nutshell. But yeah, I did not come at it from a affiliate marketing, make money fast, like, approach. It's like, oh, how can I make money really quick? Hey, there's this thing called affiliate marketing. Cool, I'll start a website. Beard oil, let's do that. And it's like, those are like I think that's why I've sustained for as long as I have, is because I did not come at it from that angle. And it's always been like, I'm going to build a brand around the thing that I'm good at. And so there you
I
go.
think you're absolutely right. And I want to keep going down this path. But before we do, I'm really surprised to hear that you weren't naturally a good writer, because you must have practiced at it a lot. Like, do you write the content on your websites?
Which one? I only write on Money Lab.
Okay, well, that's the one that I was referring to. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like how on Money Lab, I'm a big fan of people that just write their journey. Basically, they just write things that they're figuring out. It's my favorite way, at least on my blog, just to kind of document the stuff I'm learning and bring people down that experience with me, so that my concept is like, I hope that you can learn from my mistakes so that you don't have to learn from yours,
Yeah.
And that's how I approach it. However, there's a difference between writing a book and writing a web page. And like, you must have practiced a lot, because you've really nailed down that style of writing where you just get as much information as you can into short, kind of compact sentences and paragraphs, and make it so that as soon as you're done one thought, you can go into the other one. And it's like, it's very smooth.
Yep. That's not an accident. I have always been made fun of for my writing. I failed literally every English class in high school except creative writing. That was the only one I excelled at. Mainly because I feel like I'm a creative person, and I am not good at following rules. I'm very anti authority, just as a person. It's why I work for myself. I just will never work for anybody else, another human being, ever again. And it's because so the reason for that is I don't know. I guess that's just who I am. But that sort of like, you can't tell, like, I'm putting my thoughts down on a page, or I'm putting words down on a page, and if I don't follow your grammar rules, depending on what school of thought you came from, I'm wrong. No, I'm not wrong. And so I've gotten in a lot of fights with a lot of English teachers, and that's the reason I dropped out of college, because I literally got in an argument with my English teacher and said, I'm done. I'm not doing this. If I have to stick to, like, and it's so ironic, because like, this is how I make my living now, was through writing. So, basically like F you, right, to the whole system. But I do think that my lack of grammar skills allowed me to free flow write without being too much in my head as a person. I've always just been very good at just putting whatever down on a page that's in my head, and it's sloppy and it's terrible. There's no grammar, there's no periods, there's no commas, there's nothing. I just kind of like, it's like stream of consciousness, sort of. And so as I've gotten in, not trouble, but like, in my early days of swim university, like I've lost sponsors because of how bad my writing was and how poorly it came. It sounded very stupid, and it sounded very dumb. And I have a story where a client was like, hey, we said we would like advertise on your website, but then we read your website and it sounds like a fucking child wrote this, and so we're just gonna pull out. And I was like, oh God, okay, this is like a wake up call for me to go, either you need to hire somebody, which I couldn't afford at the time, or you need to figure out how to write and you need to figure out grammar and you got to do it your way. And so I ended up just sort of, I mean, I read a lot of books. You know, I am a good reader, I think, but I never really paid attention to style. And there's a couple books that I really kind of gravitated towards. And I'm like, why does this feel so easy for me to read? And there's one book by, I think it was called Rework. It's the Base Camp book, right?
Yeah, very easy to
That
read.
one, or there was another one? I think Getting Started or Getting Real or something. And it was like, why is this so easy? And I realized that like there's no commas. There's all periods. And
Mhm,
then I read something from, which I don't necessarily like this person, but James Altucher or something.
mhm,
He wrote something on a post that I saw that was just like, right. He was basically saying like, if you don't know how to do grammar, and you don't understand this, use more periods. You don't have to use commas and you don't have to use semicolons and all these things. And so I picked that up and I was like, oh, I like that. And then I found out that was Hemingway style. So I started reading a lot of Hemingway. And I was like, and then obviously there was a Hemingway app that was like trying to get you to force you into this. And I'm like, okay. And then I started understanding commas a little bit better. Started understanding like just basic sentence structure. Like, and I just really kept it simple. Like, my sentences, I try to keep short. I will choose a period over a comma any day. And then, you start to learn commas and then you start to learn semicolons. And then semicolons is where you can start getting a little pretentious in your writing. And, then you can start using semicolons for certain punchlines, the way you want it delivered. And then that is when I started understanding the correlation between grammar and timing. That was like, that clicked for me. I was like, oh, I see. Like a period's a hard stop, a comma's a soft stop, a semicolon's like kind of a mix between a period and a hard stop, or a hard stop and a soft stop. And I was like, okay, I think I understand this. And that was like, those are the three pieces of, and then the other thing I learned was like exclamation points are for the weak. Like try to like limit the amount of exclamation points you use. And then, then like the question mark and exclamation points really been good for me. So like, I just have like a handful of like things that I use. And the more important part is being able to tell a story. And you like Money Lab looks like a blog that is kind of told linearly, right? And it is, but I have help. My girlfriend helps me. My friends help me to, even if I'm writing just like hey, here's what I did. I want it to be engaging and I want it to be interesting. So I will take a first pass at it and I'll write it. And then I'll go and like I edit as I write. So I'm making sure that I'm like, all right, how do I take this one sentence and make it, 5 words instead of 10 words? How do I make it 4 words instead of 5 words? How do I make it, 4.5 words, whatever. Like I keep trying to make the sentences shorter by giving the same information. And so I'll try to get it down as much as I can. And then I'll hand it over to somebody else sometimes, not all the time. And they'll sort of reorganize the paragraphs to be like, you need to talk about this before you talk about this. And you need, and so those things get shifted around. And then I go take another pass at it and really try to condense it even more. So my job is like free flow, stream of consciousness, get as much down as humanly possible, edit as I write sort of thing, then have somebody else look at it and then sort of like crunch it down even more. So it's just compressing until like, and this is what I think happened with the base camp guys, where like every sentence is important. No sentence is a fluff. No sentence is a lead in there. It's just like, it is very to the point. And that is the kind of shit that I like to read. And it's really like, it's not really writing for me. I get to write the way that I do, which is free form and no grammar and who gives a shit. And then I get to like basically look at it as an optimization with my optimization eye, as opposed to like a writer's eye and trying to write brilliant prose. I'm not trying to do that. And the other thing that I do too with Money Lab, which I don't think a lot of people do, is I punch up. So I look at it from like a script point of view where I go, how do I make this funnier? How do I make this more entertaining? Because like a lot of what I write can be very boring, especially in the pool industry too. I don't write much there anymore, but I would always take a pass at it from a comedic point of view, because it's like I have to be in that mindset. Like, okay, you were trying to make this funnier, but you can't overdo it. There's timing, like you can't just be bombarded with jokes every other sentence because then it's going to feel silly. But if you pepper in some jokes or you maybe restructure a sentence to like just read funnier, then, or use a semicolon where you've used or use a heart, or maybe you put a semicolon or you put a comma, but like a period's actually funnier, those things are like, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, but it's enjoyable because it is, I look at it from an optimization lens as opposed to like an English or writing lens.
Yeah. Brilliant. I think there is so much to learn from that whole conversation. As much as the internet or even just work or creative work uh, has gotten more involved with media and video and images, I always tell people that the first thing I think you should do if you're trying to build an online brand, and especially get to a point where you want to monetize an online brand, is learn how to write. And the reason being is because the story, I mean, anytime somebody mentions story, my eyes always open up a little bit, because that's really all you're doing. Whether you're selling a pool product, something that's dry and kind of boring, or whether you're telling a personal story about like a childhood, something that's like a much more dynamic or whatever, it's still a story. There's still a beginning, a middle, and an end, and then ultimately like a point. And if you're good at it, a call to action. And if you can navigate how to do that, I personally think it's just the most valuable skill. It's almost like the online marketing version of being a really good salesperson, right?
Yeah. And I don't think story is one of those things that's a really sexy word right now. It's like a really cool buzzword. Like,
Yeah.
I'm a storyteller. No, you're not. You're not a storyteller. If you write a how-to article about getting rid of pool algae, I'm sorry, that's not a story. It will never be a story. You doing a vlog is not a story if you don't tell it. I mean, if you don't craft it, you have to craft it. I don't think like, like if you look at Money Lab, I'm recounting a series of events in a day. Sometimes I will go back and look at it and go, how do I make this more compelling? How do I make this more, this is boring. And stories are not meant to be boring. So I definitely don't call myself a storyteller. I just think that I have a natural ability to, I mean, that's just kind of how we talk, right? Like we talk in stories sometimes. Like, your first question, I sort of told a story of how I started. I sort of told a story of how I write in a way, but there was no beginning. There was no plot. There was no like real, you know what I mean? Like a real story is constructed. And so I hate the idea that like everything has to be a story. It doesn't. Some things can just be technical. Some things can just be a how-to article. Just because you vlog doesn't mean you're a storyteller. So I don't know if like that. I don't know what it is. Like I think it's more of like if you can convey an idea in a very easy to digest format, then you're just good at that. That's whatever that is. I think with one of the strengths that I have with Swim University, which is a very technical, and same with Money Lab, I think too. These are very technical and very especially pools. Like it's like water chemistry. It's like I could as a writer, and I mean, this is kind of my whole company is based on this philosophy that this stuff you can really nerd out if you want to. And there are sites out there where they do that and they pride themselves in that. And they're actually assholes because of it. They will say to me, yo, you don't understand water chemistry. And they'll start throwing just they'll just, kind of double down on all the terminology, all the scientific terms. And I go, that's great. I'm so glad you spent your whole life trying to understand water chemistry from like a really deep scientific level. That is so cool. Here's the thing. Most of the customers I'm talking to are just people who want to swim in their fucking pool. They don't want a fucking chemistry degree. And that's the reason your site is not as successful, is because I think we just kind of say, you don't really need to know this. Like, it's kind of like, we know this, let us know this, and let us distill this into something that you can understand. And I'm not saying dumb it down. I'm just saying, like, omit information that is sort of like, you don't need to know what, you don't really need to understand what parts per million really means, right? It's just a measurement. It's just a measurement. That's all things measured are, in the pool industry, it's measured in parts per million. That's it. ppm. You don't really need to understand it at a deep level of what that really means, like chemically. So we just kind of omit those things, just like, it's just like, and it's just not fun to read. It's just like, it's kind of like a deterrent from what the actual goal of the article is, which is like, I have a party this weekend and my pool needs to be clear. I'm glad you're a chemistry major, but that's not who I want to learn from. I want to learn from somebody who is who has a scientific background, but then somebody who could like hear them and then retell it in a way that's like more digestible for the general public.
I totally agree. And I think it's important to make that distinction. When I think of story,
Mm-hmm.
and totally agree, it's like an overused kind of hyperbolic term at this point.
Yeah, that's
sort of
right.
filled with like fluff. There's like a lot of art behind the idea of telling a
Well,
story.
everyone wants to be an artist, and so it's
Exactly.
like, it's very easy to call yourself that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so when I think of it from an online perspective standpoint, and I think the example that you just gave is great. It's like, I have a party this weekend and my pool needs to be clear. So to me, the objective of the story that you got to tell is like, here's your problem and how can you fix it?
Yeah.
And you don't need to have all of that very specific information in there, because realistically, all you're doing is trying to tell the person, like, this is what you need to do, click this button right here and your problem will be solved. And so in my view, that's why being good at formatting content in a way that is very direct, lots of periods, lots of short sentences, like short paragraphs with space in between them, is so good at delivering that message. Because whether we call it a story or whether we call it a solution or whatever the case may be, you get to it as quick as possible, and then you embark an emotional response with somebody, and then that emotional response is why they essentially take action.
And it goes against all the data, right? It's like, it goes against what the online marketers tell you. It's like, you need long ass like blog posts. You need 2,000 words. Oh yeah, but man, if you can get to 5,000 words, oh, you're killing it. If you get to 12,000, I've seen blog posts that were 12,000 words on like how to start a blog. I'm pretty sure I could take those 12,000 words and I could distill it down to 2,000 words or less. I guarantee you I could. Or I would omit things that you probably don't even need to know and you don't even need to concern yourself with when you're trying to get to the end game of how to start a blog. It's like, I can tell you probably in 3 moves how to get there. And I just think that, we've sort of, that's the thing about seeing through the bullshit. It's like, you see these things like, we've studied 10,000 blogs and we noticed that, most blog posts, if you want to rank, you need to be 2,500 words or whatever. It's like, no, that's not true. You just, there's a problem in the internet, right? And you just highlighted it. There's too many fucking words. Like, use less words and you can rank. We rank for pages that have like 100 words. It has nothing to do with that. It's like, it's Google wants to answer the question. That's their whole job, is like, is giving searchers the relevant answer. And obviously they're taking your 12,000 words now, pulling out the one paragraph and stealing it basically for themselves, as Google is doing. It's like, well, why not just be Google and just do that on your own site? Because that's exactly what people are looking for. And I don't mean that like you shouldn't write in-depth content. In-depth content is very different than what I'm talking about. It's like, you can write in-depth content, just you probably didn't need like 10 sentences to convey one idea. You probably only needed 2. So
yeah. Brilliant, man. I love it. I love this conversation. I think you and I could probably nerd out about
it's like, it's very inside. Yeah. It's very like, it's very nerdy. Yeah. It's very like,
but I totally agree. And I guess just before I move on to the next idea is just to just almost double down on that. Like if you want to get started, the first thing to do is just solve that really, really difficult problem in becoming a good writer, which in my view is basically means become a really good communicator. And
Yeah,
if
that's
you do
exactly.
that, then I think you can build a really great business.
Yep.
So here's another reason why I'm a big fan of what you're doing and like the style that you've taken. Man, you're killing it, Matt. You're awesome.
The audio people don't know what I just did, but I just made it look like my head was expanding from all the compliments.
No, I mean, I mean them, and it's not to inflate your ego. It's from a very pragmatic standpoint. I have been a big believer ever since I started my first online company in that the way to do it, and you hear about audience building, right? The way to do it is to go small. And the mistake that people make is they think I need to have 1 million followers and a gazillion email followers, where that's not true. You just have to find your people, right?
Yeah.
Because no matter what it is that you're into, and every time I look around, there's always weird examples. Like the random example that always comes to mind, and I don't know why, but my sister and I, we collect sugar skulls, like little statue skulls. Every time we travel somewhere and we find one, I'll buy one and send to her, and she'll buy one and send to me, right? And it's such a small, like, idiosyncratic example, but the fact of the matter is, if you're into sugar skulls, there's got to be tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of other people that are also into them. So like
Yeah.
whatever you're into, there's other people that are into it. And if you
Yep.
can build content, if you can build ideas, if you can build community around little things that you're into, guaranteed you can build a business around it. And so when I saw your approach of, pools, right?
Yeah.
And breweries or
Yeah.
homebrew.
Homebrewing. Yeah.
Yeah. And then even something like Money Lab, which is experimentation, I think, like online marketing experimentation.
Which is a passion. Yeah, for
Of
sure.
course.
Yeah.
Which is something that you're into. Like, it's not just selling this dream of you want to start your online business, like you can be your own boss. It's not like that. It's like you really can enjoy the work that you do and surround yourself with people that are passionate about the same stuff. And your reward is you quite literally get to get paid to do shit that you love. And
Yeah.
I just think that's really cool. And I think you're doing that.
Yeah. I mean, so Money Lab is a very strange world that I've entered into. It's my favorite website and that I own. And the reason for it is because it is so very much exactly what I wanted to do with this website. And it has not, and I've fought very hard to keep from kind of being a sellout. It's a fear of just being a sellout is a huge fear of mine. I think it stems from when I was in a band. It's like that was the one thing you didn't want to do, and it's kind of dumb, but at the same time, like I do, the idea of Money Lab and the actual title is a tongue-in-cheek title. It was not supposed. It's meant to be a blatantly obvious reason we do anything, right? It was because I had all these other names for it, and even my own name, like it was going to just be like mattgiovanisci.com or whatever. And then the whole idea was, I was so behind the scenes with Swim University and doing all of these things and having conversations with like one or two people. And I really just wanted to kind of like have an outlet to showcase just my thought process and to just basically journal what I was thinking and how I was approaching business from my understanding completely differently than everybody else was doing. Because I had been trained in all of this as I was building Swim University for 10 years. And I'm very, I've been cherry picking ideas and not necessarily following, anybody's specific idea, because it never worked for me, especially in the pool industry. There was a lot of ideas like, you need to get into forums. Who's got a pool forum? That's not a thing. You need to run Facebook ads. To who? They don't write on their Facebook profile that they own a swimming pool. So how do you do that? It's like there's a lot of like things that people you just got to get in front of someone else's audience. There wasn't that. So I just had to like sit there and cherry pick all these ideas over all these years. And I just didn't like being behind the scenes anymore. I kind of wanted to like show off. I wanted to brag about like this work that I was doing, and I needed a place to do that. And so the other idea was I also wanted an excuse to do crazier shit, right? I wanted to try something interesting, like make a rap album in 30 days, for example, and go, can I do something like this? It's something I've always wanted to do. Is it possible? Can you make money from it? Where are you going to do that? And so I was like, so the idea was like, maybe it's called Product Lab. And like the idea that like, the idea was I want to just write down a hypothesis. I want to showcase what I'm doing as an experiment and have zero, I'm not giving advice during it. I'm not saying you should do X or you should do this. I'm just going, here's my thing, whatever, did it work or did it not work? That was basically it. And so I went back and forth with names, and like I was just like, you know what, let's just call it what it is. Like, we're trying to make money on the internet, so just call it Money Lab.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, no one owns that. Great. All right, then there you go. That was kind of how it was born. And then yeah, it sort of became my personal brand, which was like, here's my kind of like manifesto. My manifesto is I'm just a fucking guy who's been doing this for many years. I have these handful of skills, and I have a handful of ideas, and I'm just going to try them publicly. And some of them are going to work, and most of them are not. And so that's kind of how it started, and that's what it is. And I still do it. It's still like, I still will be like, oh, I want to try Pinterest. Well, I'm not going to, dedicate like an employee to it or like pay somebody to do it or whatever. Like, I'm just going to do it myself, soup to nuts, document the whole thing. And then at the end of it, like, what did I learn? And it's like, okay, is it? And then it becomes, and then, it sounds like a journal entry, and it is. But again, going back to like all of the editing and the optimizing, like it's a journal entry that I've edited to basically turn it into an easily digestible, like something that's actually not shitty to read. It's not like just some guy's journal. It's crafted in some way. And the unfortunate part of running a website like that is there's no SEO traffic at all. Like it gets so little love on Google. And that's kind of been like, once I realized that, I'm like, cool, I'm good with that. Like I'm good at doing SEO. I do SEO in my sleep. I've studied it for many years. Let me try to do marketing a way that I don't know how, a very uncomfortable way of doing it, which is like really just word of mouth. And that's how Money Lab is it's and like, to give you true numbers, like when you talk about small audiences, like, yes, there's a lot of people I know that like Money Lab, but my site gets about 4,000 visitors a month, maybe. And I have about 1,800 subscribers on my email list. And it's been around for 4 years or 5 years. So like, it's just been and I got those 16 to 1,800 people like the second month I had it, because I had a viral hit with, I don't know if you saw that email marketing page that I did. So like this, dude, it was like the month after I started Money Lab. And I was getting so sick and tired of like the pop-ups, like the email pop-ups that come in from like everywhere. And this was like at the height of like Sumo and all of these like, or Sumo Me and like all of these like OptimMonster, all these apps that were like, this is the way to get email addresses. And I just got so angry that I jumped on the computer and I just started writing this whole thing of me going, just like, give me your fucking email address. Like, I will do whatever it takes. Like, and I sent it to a friend, and he was like, dude, you use the F word in every sentence. And I was like, yeah. He's like, that's not funny. I was like, yeah, you're right. It's not funny. And then like, I took these, I think it was like 500 words. And I just like, for a month, just kept refining it and kept punching up jokes or taking out jokes or, doing all this stuff. And then I ended up building a web page where, as you're reading it, like these pop-ups are sliding in, asking for your email address. And the whole thing is it's just called Give Me Your Email Address. And it was just like parody account. And it's been like, that went viral. I think it got on Hacker News and it got on all these other sites like Reddit. And I got 1,600 email subscribers in a day. Right. And then that's basically been my audience for the last 4 years. Right. Is like anybody who saw that and understands what I'm trying to do. And it turns out it's a lot of my peers. And that was always the goal. It's like, I don't want, like, there's definitely like people like, there's definitely entrepreneurs that read my stuff, and there's definitely like people who are just starting out. But most of the people that read Money Lab are like, they've been doing it for a while, and it's sort of like this respect, right? And
Yeah.
it's like, that's what I wanted. I want it my peers to be like, I like your site. Like, you're like one of the only sites that I read. I want it like, people to be like, I don't bookmark many sites and I don't follow many Twitter people, but you're one of them. It's like, that's it. I don't need a lot of people. I just need peers. And that was the goal. And I've met it. And now I don't want to, like, now that I have it, I always want to grow, but I'm actually pretty cool being like being the cool kid in the room, with the site. So it's kind of like it allows me to remain proud of it without selling out, and it makes decent money. I would say probably like $2,000 to $4,000 a month in just course sales, and I'm good with that. Like that's obviously a comfortable living for me. If I didn't have some university, like I would totally live on that. So I mean, yeah, of course I want it to grow, but I also want to be cool. So there's a balance.
Man, I think that's so amazing because I just relate to it so much. Like, it took me a long time to actually, I think even the, so where do I go with this? Our agency makes all of our sales and leads, and that's, multi-million-dollar company, and that's all
Mm-hmm.
through SEO search.
Yeah.
And so it's like, how to do it. And I got a couple lead gen sites, which is all the same thing. And so because there's so many people like you and I who are creating content about like build this amazing online business, the first year in my blog, I remember being really frustrated because it's like, there's no way that I can compete with, like the Pat Flynn's or like
Mm-hmm.
the E on Fire. It's just not going to happen. They got like
Yeah.
10 years on me. And so about 2 years into it, I just, maybe I got older and just more comfortable, or I don't know, maybe it was like half the acceptance of just saying like, this isn't worth it. But I just decided like, who are the people that I want to relate to? And let me just start having conversations with them.
Yeah.
And so my whole writing style changed. And that's when I actually decided to focus a lot on my podcast, my email list. Like you said, I think there's 1,800 people on it. But I love it. Like, they know every single Friday they get a newsletter from me, and they have for forever. And it's almost like the same 100 people or so reply every time.
Yeah.
It's
That's
like,
how
hey man, I really
yeah.
like this, but it feels good. I like it.
Yeah. And I get, even my email list is it's such a weird, and this was like day one. The thought that I had was like, I don't want to be on a schedule. I don't like being on a schedule. And so I was like, I'm not sending a newsletter because I know there's going to be a day where I'm going to have to send a newsletter one Friday. And I'm like, I got nothing this week and I'm just going to pull shit out of my ass. And it's like, I can't do that and so like,
I like
and
that.
so my emails are very unique from what I've been told. I certainly don't subscribe to anybody that does what I do, which is basically I write to you. I'm like, you're on my list. I'm just writing. I literally pick a person on my email list, and I just write an email to them. And my emails are short, and they're kind of like to the point, and they are sometimes it's just to share one link. It's usually to share one link, like, hey, I worked on this thing or I updated this thing. Check it out. Or, like, here's what happened to me yesterday. And like, it got me thinking about this. And so therefore I wrote this, or I created this piece. And I just kind of like, I don't like writing. Like, I hate writing, it's something that it's a slog for me. And so I do craft my emails the same way I craft my website, but they're so much shorter and they're so, kind of sporadic. It's kind of like you just got an email from me and we've been friends for a while. I'm just like, what are you up to? And they're like, what? And it's funny because I get people who understand what I'm doing. They know that they're on a ConvertKit list, but they'll email me like, dude, I really thought you were talking to me. Like, I really thought you emailed just me. And then I looked back at the email and I realized like it was formatted and it had an unsubscribe link at the bottom. But like, how do you do that? And I go, because I literally probably thought about you when I sent it. It was like, and when I write the emails, this is a conscious choice, I don't say you all or we, or I use very like, I'm talking to an individual person. And I keep it short, like a real email would be. And I put funny titles. I put funny subject lines. I don't write long, like, this is how I did X. It's like, sometimes I'll just write, hey, or I'll write, yo, or I'll write like something like goofy, or I'll, a couple of times I've gotten put in spam folders because I, threw sexual innuendos in the title or in, or in the subject line. And it was like, I was trying to be funny, but like got put in spam. So don't do that again. But yeah, it's a really kind of, and I do get a little like, I mean, today is one of those days. Like, I do feel like I haven't emailed like my people in a long time. And so like,
Mhm.
sometimes I'll just email them like, I didn't do anything. I'm sorry. Like, here's what's going on. I have nothing to share this week, or I have nothing to share this month. I don't know. Or sometimes I just won't email them and I'll just feel bad. And then I'll end up creating some piece of content, whether it's like a parody thing or a song or whatever. And I'll just be like, hey, I just did this, thanks
Yeah.
for being on the list or whatever. Just so they don't forget about me. But, I have a very high open rate. I have a very low churn rate. And I think it's just because I treat them like human beings and not like people on a list,
Yeah.
not just a line in a spreadsheet.
That's cool.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's very cool. All right. Wrapping this thing up, we got a couple more minutes, but there
Yeah.
is one more subject that I want to talk about because I feel that you are going to have a very specific opinion on it. And
Mm.
let me give you a little bit of context. One of the reasons why, when I first saw your concept of affiliate, is because I'm not a product person. Like we've built, um, we're my company's mainly a lead gen company slash SEO company, and I feel
Hmm.
very comfortable with that, and we've made a great living. But the dream for a lot of independent content creators like ourselves is to just have products that we can sell and make a living off of. And anytime I would give advice to people, like the advice that we just shared, like find what you're into and then create content about it, the gap I always had in my head is, okay, cool, so you've built an email list, you got 5,000 people, like, now what? I don't want to tell people to put Google ads on their site.
Yeah.
And so seeing that solution of building relationships with either like independent businesses and creating affiliate products just seems like a really, really good solution. However, one of the dangers of that is that you're not actually in control of your own inventory the same way that you would be if you created your own products. And I think a really, really telling example of that, and I feel like when I say this, I'm going to make you lose your fucking mind,
Okay.
is Amazon recently. I mean,
Yeah.
that must have crushed hundreds of thousands of businesses. Honestly, like I don't have any Amazon affiliate businesses, but in some cases I saw it went from like 10% commission down to like 1 to 2% commission.
Hmm. Yeah.
And
Mine went from 7 to 3.
7 to 3 was
Hmm.
for some of your stuff.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
I mean, like, doesn't take a brain scientist. That's more than half of revenue.
Yeah.
And
I lost 50%.
oh
We had a whole month of doing it, and yeah, 50% was lost. But
yeah,
thankfully we were building our own products, kind of like, and putting those things in place. So it did make up for it, but we
very
didn't
cool.
grow this year. Like, we didn't like had that continued and we still did our behind the scenes thing, we would have like doubled our business this year.
Wow.
We only probably grew by like 10% instead of like doubling. Which I can't be mad about at all, because
Sure.
yeah, I mean, the Amazon thing really bummed me out, but there are alternatives,
Well,
to
yeah, and
Amazon.
sure. So I guess where I wanted to go with that is from somebody that's been on both ends. You've
Yeah. Hmm.
created your own products and you've had a lot of success with affiliate, and you've
Yeah.
learned these lessons about what can happen if a third party vendor pulls the rug out from under you. If
Yes.
somebody's listening to this and they're saying like, oh man, that's my solution, I want to build a website about sugar skulls and now I have a way to monetize it, like what
Hmm.
is your game plan that you would give to them?
I think affiliate marketing is a very quick way to monetize your site. And I think
Mm,
it's a very good way to monetize your site, especially if I mean, the way that I look at Swim University is I treat it as if it is a store that I own, and it's like a local store. I personally recommend, I've been in the pool industry for like 25 years. I know the products, they send me shit. I like some products and I dislike a lot of products. And I only quote unquote stock products on my website that I personally recommend. And so I do keep an inventory of products. I actually have a software company called Lasso, which is how I do it. And when things are out of stock, we fix it and we find the thing that will replace it, or we remove it from the site. We can do that all through our inventory management system. So I do kind of treat it like an e-commerce site. And more so, I treat it like a mom and pop store. Like, you're coming into my store and I am the guy, and you're like, what do I do, Matt? And I go, here, this and this, okay. And it's in stock because I trust this company. It's a very old school approach. I don't just add a bunch of affiliate links to things just because whatever. That said, that was a very early, like, dude, you can monetize your site day one, with a strategy like that. You're not going to get a lot of sales. You're not going to make a lot of money, but it's monetized. Secondly, I was like, I started with AdSense as well. You would, when the Amazon thing hit, I was very public in expressing my anger towards it, and just telling people how much money I stood to lose, and I've been very upfront about that. And so what I still kind of go like, I've, for the last like 7 years, I've been trying to, if affiliate marketing is 90% of my income and digital product sales are 10% of my income, I've been trying to sway those numbers. I've been trying to make it more like 60-40 or more like 50-50. The one thing that I refused to compromise on, and a lot of people emailed me after this happened and said, why don't you just put ads on your site? Oh my God, the amount of traffic you're getting, the amount of money you'd make. And I just
make like
tell them, no. I'm like, one, it's going to crush my page speed, and I'm a page speed nerd. Like, my sites are lightning, and there's a very good reason for that. It is my competitive advantage. And two, I don't know. Do you hate ads? You're the person telling me, when you go on a website, or you go like, fuck, I hate this shit. It's like, yeah, you are. So why would I do that to the people that are visiting my site? That's terrible. And plus, yeah, the amount of, it's not worth the month. Like, yeah, of course I might make 10 grand a month from doing it. Integrity, I guess, is what's holding me back from that. And like, having a fast site and a site that's not annoying. I don't want an annoying site. I want a site that like you can read on mobile and not like have to like scroll through pop-up ads. Dude, I don't add the accept cookie thing.
Me neither.
I'm like, you know what? Let them come after me. Am I really that much of a threat? I don't even really I don't do anything with email addresses. I don't really collect any data. And I was just like, I'd rather not collect data than have a pop-up that every time you visit my site, you have to accept. I'm like, no, it's the worst. It's the worst. So I was like, you know what? I don't need the data. I don't need it. So, and it's all on my disclosure page. Had a lawyer look it over. It's all good. And, before you sign up for an email address, I mean, I'm going on a tangent, but basically, I think starting out with an affiliate strategy is great. And keeping that affiliate strategy through the whole time you run your business is great. But I always consider it icing. I don't want to consider it my business. And I get very nervous when my entire business is based on affiliate marketing. And I would also be nervous if my entire business was based on selling ads, because if you run a podcast right now and you make your money primarily through ads, are you, the question even right now with everything that's going on in the world, are you making money through ads right now? Because I know a lot of advertisers are pulling out. And so when you're at them, and this is the same thing about this kind of goes back to the beginning where we're talking about how I just have this like anti-authority sort of like mentality. That's me working for Amazon is what it is. And that's me working for an advertiser. No, thank you. You don't get to tell me what to do, except Amazon does tell me what to do, and then they fuck you. So, yeah. Lesson learned. And I couldn't fully just say, F you to Amazon. I have to slowly sort of like, transition myself to be my really kind of like in control of my own income. And so we've been doing that, and thankfully it's been successful and it continues to be successful. But then again, I'm also at the mercy of Google. So, with SEO and stuff. So it's kind of like you're always building off the backs of another giant. And it's just a matter of being like the one of the things that I think that I do to stay sort of like, I want to be nimble and be able to hop giants, be able to move quickly. And when you have a big team and you have a big company, it's really hard to do stuff like that. But if you're small and you stay small and you grow, you're smart about it, it's very easy for us to kind of like make those shifts. And that's sort of, I guess, like what I do in a nutshell.
Great advice, man. And I think important advice. I got really hurt, and people that listen to my podcast, I can't even go through the whole story again, but the whole Facebook bait and switch, like that was my lesson. And that kicked my ass for sure. It was like years of work that overnight just meant nothing. And
like the algorithm switch when they
exactly.
when you were getting like page likes and it meant something, and then it all of a sudden didn't mean anything.
Yeah, and now it's crazy to see. I'm never trying to preach to anybody, because I'm not trying to come at it from like a moral standpoint by any means. Like if you can build a business using Amazon, I don't want to get in your way. I'm always trying to come at it from a practical standpoint. Like, look, I swear to you, this will not last forever. So like,
right.
Yourself.
But that's how I feel about everything.
Everything.
So it's like, if you feel that way, it's like, take advantage of it while you can. Don't be a dick about it. Save your money. Build up like, a war chest or a vault or whatever you want to call it, whatever word you want to give it. And, make sure you're ready for this stuff. Cause like, look what happened during the pandemic. Like a lot of businesses were not ready. A lot of businesses were just screwed in general. And,
sure.
But we had money saved. And the only reason I do that is because I learned my lesson too. I run a seasonal business. We don't make a lot of money in the wintertime. And so like, I had to learn some not tricks, like just good accounting, and just, and try not to overspend. Like ruthlessly look at your books, cut expenses, save your money, make it last, invest it in like small right areas. Only, it's just really kind of being like uber diligent about where your money is going. It's the same thing with personal finance. I mean, that's kind of, I come from that world as well. And it's like a lot of lessons to be learned there that you can learn in business. And so having those skill sets is like, if I was going to tell anybody, if you were going to start your own business from scratch, it would be first get your own shit together. Because the first thing that I did when I actually lost my job and started my business was I just bought every personal finance book I could get my hands on and just read about how to be better with money as an individual. And then slowly but surely those principles carried over into the business. It took some time, took some learning, but I took some mistakes as well. But I finally feel like I'm in a place where like I'm still prone to make mistakes, but less drastic ones or less like devastating ones.
Yeah. Great advice, man. People need to hear that. And just to repeat one more time, big fan of all you're doing. I have 2 business partners actually that live in Boulder. So I was supposed to be out there, but like I told you, the pandemic screwed everything up. So
right.
We're hoping to make it out there in September, maybe. So when we do, hopefully we can meet up and grab a bite to eat. Matt, thank you so much for your time. Everybody, I'm not just saying this as like the podcast promoter. I'm saying this as a fan. Go to moneylab.co, I believe.
Yep.
Sign up. Your writing has a great sense of humor. Your images have a great sense of humor. Thank you so much for being so transparent with all your message. And I appreciate your time, bro.
No, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. All right. We'll do this again. See you later.
Later.